Random House Audio presents The Queen Mother, The Official Biography by William Shawcross. Wednesday the 19th of July 2000 was the day chosen for the pageant celebrating the 100th birthday of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. In London, the day did not begin well. There were bomb scares, the controlled explosion of a suspicious bag, and many trains were cancelled. Senior police officers considered whether the whole event should be abandoned. It was not. The celebration on Horse Guards Parade in Whitehall had been designed as a joyful tribute to Queen Elizabeth and the hundreds of organisations with which she was connected. In warm afternoon sunshine, as the national anthem was performed by massed military bands, the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra and a choir of 1,000 singers, Queen Elizabeth, dressed in pink, arrived with her grandson, the Prince of Wales, in a landau escorted by the household cavalry. After she had inspected the troops, she and the Prince sat on a flower-bedecked dais to watch the parade together. It began with a march past of the regiments of which she was Colonel-in-Chief, followed by the King's troop of the Royal Horse Artillery and the mounted bands of the household cavalry. 100 homing doves were released as a young boy sang, "Oh, for the wings of a dove." Then came a cavalcade of the century, a light-hearted look at the 100 years she had lived through, more of a circus than a parade. Among the scenes and players who passed in front of her were soldiers of the First World War, ballroom dancers from the 1920s, a Second World War fire engine, pearly kings and queens from the East End of London, and people in 1940s dress celebrating victory in 1945. Then came a series of post-war cars: Enid Blyton's Noddy in his yellow car, the first Mini Minor, James Bond's Aston Martin, and E-Type Jaguar. More recent and perhaps more surprising 20th century memories were recalled by Hell's Angels on their bikes, punk rock youths in black, and the television characters, the Wombles. After this eclectic depiction of the previous 10 decades, representatives of 170 of the more than 300 civil organisations, charities, and other groups with which Queen Elizabeth was associated marched past her. This part of the parade began with Queen Elizabeth's page leading 2 of her corgis, the breed of dogs which had for so long shared her life. There were more animals: camels, ridden by members of the Worshipful Company of Grocers, whose emblem is a camel, an Aberdeen Angus bull, North Country Cheviot sheep, chickens, racehorses. The groups waving gaily as they passed included the Girls' Brigade, the Mothers' Union, the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, the National Trust, the Colditz Association, the Bomber Command Association, and, bringing up the rear, 22 holders of the Victoria and George Crosses, Britain's highest awards for heroism, followed by the venerable Chelsea pensioners, marching stiffly but proudly in their bright red uniforms. Everyone in the stands stood up as these brave men and women passed. RAF planes from the Second World War, a Spitfire, a Hurricane, a Lancaster bomber, a Bristol Blenheim, flew overhead, followed by the Red Arrows trailing red, white, and blue vapour trails. And all the while the bands and the orchestra played on and the choirs sang. Hubert Parry's glorious anthem, "I Was Glad," which had been sung at King George VI and Queen Elizabeth's coronation in 1937, was followed by First World War music hall favourites such as "Pack Up Your Troubles in Your Old Kit Bag," "Keep the Home Fires Burning," and, nicely vulgar, "My Old Man Said Follow the Van." 300 children from the Chicken Shed Company danced. At the end, the Queen Mother made a short speech of thanks, saying it had been a great joy to me, before driving off to St. James's Palace, where she climbed the stairs to the staterooms and spent the next hour and a half at a reception, sitting down only to talk to the singer, Dame Vera Lynn. 2 weeks later, on the morning of her actual 100th birthday, the 4th of August, a large crowd gathered outside her London home, Clarence House. The gates were opened, and the royal postman, Tony Nichols, delivered the traditional message sent by the Queen to all her subjects who reached their 100th birthday. The Queen Mother started to open it and then passed it to her equerry. "Come on, use your sword," she said. Captain William de Rouet unsheathed his ceremonial blade and slit the envelope open. The message was written in the Queen's own hand and read, "On your 100th birthday, all the family join with me in sending you our loving best wishes for this special day. Lilibet." In the Queen Mother's long life, the world had undergone technological change with unprecedented speed, and political transformations of exceptional violence. It had moved from the age of travel by horse to that of travel through space. The United Kingdom had suffered the trauma of the Great War, and then faced almost continuous challenge from economic and political turmoil through a world slump, the abdication of King Edward VIII, the Second World War, the Cold War. The British monarchy was not isolated from the political and social changes. It had adapted itself, and it had survived. More than that, it had retained the consent of the people essential to constitutional monarchy. This adaptation was largely due to the efforts of successive sovereigns and their advisers. But a key question is the extent to which the consent necessary for its survival was generated by the woman who was for almost 80 years at its heart, as Duchess of York, Queen and Queen Mother. How did she do it? What combination of qualities had enabled this young Scottish aristocrat to come into the royal family and play such a central role in the life of the nation? How did she earn, and more remarkably, how did she retain her popularity through all of the turbulent 20th century? Would the British monarchy have evolved in a very different way without her influence? And would that have helped or hindered the institution and the country? All these questions can perhaps be examined in the context of a few words from Walter Bagehot, the mid-19th century writer who is often seen as the greatest interpreter of modern monarchy. "The nation is divided into parties, but the crown is of no party. Its apparent separation from business is that which removes it both from enmities and from desecration, which preserves its mystery, which enables it to combine the affection of conflicting parties, to be a visible symbol of unity." Elizabeth Angela Marguerite Bowes-Lyon, the 9th child and the 4th daughter of Lord and Lady Glamis, was born at the end of the Victorian era, on the 4th of August, 1900. Her family was of distinguished and colourful lineage in both England and Scotland. Lord Glamis was the son and heir of the 13th Earl of Strathmore and Kinghorn. The Strathmores trace their ancestry back to the 14th century. Elizabeth's father, Claude George, held the courtesy title of Lord Glamis before succeeding as the 14th Earl in 1904. In 1881 he had married Cecilia Cavendish Bentinck, great-granddaughter of the 3rd Duke of Portland. Their first child, Violet Hyacinth, was born in April 1882, and the second, Mary Frances, May, was followed by a line of sons, Patrick, John, Alexander, Fergus. Next came another girl, Rose, and then Michael. But in 1893 the family was struck by tragedy when Violet contracted diphtheria. She died just 2 weeks after the birth of her brother Michael. After Michael's birth there was an interlude in the nursery until Elizabeth was born 7 years later. Her mother was 38. There's a small mystery surrounding the actual place of Elizabeth's birth. The birth certificate filed at the Register Office in Hitchin by her father states that she was born at the family home in Hertfordshire, St. Paul's, Waldenbury. There is a plaque in the parish church of All Saints, unveiled by Queen Elizabeth herself in 1937, which commemorates her birth in the parish and her baptism at the church. She therefore caused some surprise when, close to her 80th birthday, she said that she had been born in London. In 1978, the president of the British Astrological and Psychic Society wrote to Queen Elizabeth because he had just read that she had been born in Hertfordshire, whereas the astrological chart he had lately presented to her was calculated on Edinburgh as her place of birth. Which was correct? She wrote at the top of his letter,
I was born in London.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?